All right, amazing. People are joining in. Thank you so much for everybody that joined us today. Yeah, I'll just give it a couple of seconds, a minute, because I see people rolling in. It's the most difficult part for me to just be quiet and let let people join. All right. Hi, everybody. Amazing. Somebody already, yeah, breaking in the chat. Feel free to say hi there. Let us know where you're chiming in from. I know people are from everywhere around the world, so we'd love to kind of see exactly where people are at. Amazing. Oh, look, Florida, UK, California, Barcelona, Indiana, so all over. Send us some of those sunny sunny days over here as well. We'd love to see them. Oh, wow. Just pouring in. Amazing. Hi, everybody. Sri Lanka, Italy. All right. Amazing. Okay, looks like kind of slowing down. These are the people that have joined right away, so I think we can slowly get started. Welcome everybody again. I'm Noah. I'm customer success lead here at Planable, and we're here today to kickstart our 5 series masterclass on the topic of social media analytics and how to decode social media analytics. If you work with social media, in social media, there comes a point where you have to look at your data and try to make sense of it. And that's what we aim to do with this 5 series masterclass. Kind of each session is dedicated to a specific part. So we can really dive into different areas of analytics. Before we dive into today's topic and talk about that, a bit of housekeeping. So as you can see, the chat is open, so feel free to say hi, put any questions there, either there or in the Q&A section. I'll be here to go over them. We will have a dedicated time for Q&A. So in just 1 minute, I'll be introducing our amazing guest today. They're going to go over their presentation, and then we'll have time for all of your questions. And yeah, there will be a recording. That was the last thing I wanted to mention. There will be a recording available for all registrants that we'll share after the webinar. And yeah, just a quick reminder, there's 4 other sessions, so you can still register for those as well. And if you won't be able to attend, a recording will be available. I think those were the housekeeping items. So let's slide into our topic for the day. So we're gonna be starting at the very beginning, if you ask me, which is social media metrics and how do you know which ones you need? Because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of opinions. So today, our guest and expert is the lovely Sophie Miller. She's amazing, but to give you a bit more info, she started almost 4 years ago the amazing community Pretty Little Marketer that has currently over 400,000 users, which is amazing. She's called the top marketer to watch in 2024. And also, she does strategy and content consultancy for a lot of UK brands. She's going to tell you a little bit more about herself as well. But yeah, she's our guest for today and our expert, and I'll let her take it away from here, and hope you enjoy our presentation today.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Noah. I am so excited to be here in our speaker room, so to call it. Beforehand, I was sharing, one, my love for Noah and the Planable team, but two, I very much love this 5-part series topic because it's pretty unsexy, right? Analytics, metrics, they're not the most exciting part of what many of us do as marketers, but they are, as we'll explore today, one of the most important. And I don't know, I guess we could all jazz it up together, like, how can we make metrics cool again? That's our goal today. We're going to do it. We're going to make it awesome again. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now, if I can remember how. Yes, there we go. Guys in the chat, let me know. can you see my screen? Give me a yes or no, a smiley face or a sad face. Yes, 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 yes.
We're getting a lot of
So
yes.
awesome. That's what it's all about, the community vibes. Awesome. So, which social media metrics do we really need? Is the topic we're going to be diving into today. Before we dive in, I wanted to take a moment to say hello and introduce myself. I know so many of you have shared your location in the chat already, but if you're on a laptop or you've got your keyboard handy, I would love in a sentence to know what you guys do as well. Do you freelance? Are you in an agency? Are you in-house? Are you a founder? Maybe marketing is just one of the many things that you do. But whilst I share my spiel on who I am and what I've done, I'd love to be able to get to know you guys as well. So yeah, feel free to introduce yourselves in chat whilst I do so. My name is Sophie and I make social media simple. That's my goal. Everything I do points back to that. And I do so for freelancers, marketers, and entrepreneurs. I am the founder and director, which don't be fooled by the title. I'm a team of one, but legally I'm the director of my team of one business called Pretty Little Marketer, which is a global marketing community, and I share that with pride from my tip to my toe. And alongside running PLM as a baby team of one, I consult and work with some of the UK's biggest brands. I run every part of my business alone, from all of my social media marketing end to beginning, and using my metrics to guide my decision making and all of my strategic twists, turns, meltdowns, exciting announcements. All of it comes back to my metrics. And today, of course, I'm joining forces with Noah and the incredible Planable team to help you understand why your metrics matter. We're going to talk and hopefully learn together how to determine which of those metrics matter, because of course there are many. We're going to find our starting point, which I often find is the hardest part, and equally on the difficult part of incorporating that into your day-to-day. I think it's really easy to talk about metrics and know what a like means, what a comment means, how to set our goals, which we'll dive into today. But I think when it comes to teaching and what I've digested online, it's point 4 that is commonly missed. How do we actually use our metrics in our workflow when we're creating, when we're ideating, when we are creating memes and having meta meltdowns as we have done this week? Where do our metrics fit in that planning? Let me know in the chat with an emoji or a smiley face how that sounds. Does that sound good? Are we okay with those 4 topics? Are we excited? And maybe if we get enough smiley faces, I'll commit to going through them. Go through them with me. Amazing. We have a red heart, a yellow heart, star eyes. Someone has typed out thumbs up. We're here for it. Appreciate it. We don't all have emojis up in this club. We've got an octopus. Amazing. You've convinced me. So we're going to dive into it. Before we do dive into it, I actually have a little bit of a confession. And that confession is that I didn't always use my insights. My journey very much started with guesswork. You'll probably be able to tell from our first 4 minutes, I'm very much into conversing with you guys in the chat. So I would love to know if you share that truth, that confession with me, that whilst you understand insights are important, I'd love to know how much you, and this is a safe space, love to know how much you use them. Do you use them a lot? Or are you like previous Sophie, who knew insights existed, but didn't really use them? We've got a few fellow confessioners in the chat. So it's nice to know that we are not alone. We're in it together. That is for sure. Oh, I want to go back a slide. There we go. So it started with guess what? And I started PLM in June 2020. So as Noah said, almost 4 years ago now, which has absolutely flown by. I was a second year student in the UK. I was studying at university. I was a second year student at the time, and I was physically lay, I was horizontal on my sofa, having a little bit of a panic about my looming graduation. I had 1 year until I was set to market. I was ready to enter the big wide world of marketing, and I wasn't excited at all. I felt lost. I felt really alone learning through the pandemic. A lot of my studies was me in my living room with a really rubbish, hardly working laptop. I was not set up for success in the slightest. In that moment, for some universe-led reason, I just decided to start an Instagram page. And of course, that Instagram page was called Pretty Little Marketer. Now, a secret for you actually is that PLM was never going to be called PLM. I'd actually written down, and you can laugh with me on this because it's kind of embarrassing. I was going to call it the Marketing Babe. And now, if you want to cringe, now's your moment to do so. By the grace of the universe, that handle was taken, and so PLM was born. Initially, in those really early days, it was the first time I'd ever used Canva. I've archived a lot of that content now because it's not cute. She doesn't look as good as these slides. I just started by documenting my journey into marketing as a newbie. What was I noticing? What was I thinking? What campaigns did I think was cool? Nothing too insightful, nothing strategic at all. It was whatever sprang to mind. Within a week, we hit 1,000 followers. Within 6 months, by December, we were a community of 8,000 on Instagram. And by January 2021, so 6 to 7 months into my baby journey as a marketer, I had added LinkedIn to my mix. We were across 2 platforms now, and I was freelancing already with some of the UK's biggest brands. My baby blog turned into a big biz. And guess what could really only carry me so far? I hit a wall quickly as soon as my blog turned into a business that needed running and marketing and engaging and growing and all the other things on our list. I needed to put the growth hacks down. I couldn't focus on my hashtag plan anymore. And I really desperately needed, to be honest, to dive into my what, my how, and my who, the most important pillars of your strategy and your direction. And the best way to do so, as I'm going to share with you today, was using my metrics and my insights to guide me, to educate me, and to lean on. Your metrics matter for many, many, many reasons, but if you do need convincing, the top 3 are these: for clarity, for direction, and to guide your outcome. Metrics provide a clear picture. So again, guesswork is great, and I think sometimes we can be sporadic and reactive and try new ideas, and I deeply encourage you to do so. I've spouted this quote a lot over on Threads and LinkedIn all the time, but it's not a flop. It's an insight. So anytime you can share something new, taking the learning from it and running with them. But metrics provide a clear picture, translating your observations, what you are seeing, the things that you are noticing, into objective data. I was telling Noah, again in our speaker room, that my partner, my angel boyfriend, who I couldn't run, he didn't work for PLM, but he might as well at this point. He works as a data scientist, which is beyond me. He does incredible work with numbers and graphs and AI and all of this awesome stuff. And he is always on me at how data is your truth and it should guide you. So I have to send him this recording. He'll love this. But your metrics provide a clear picture. They also guide your direction, so you can make informed choices about where to allocate resources, whether it's marketing budget, whether it's teams, whether you're outsourcing to a freelancer, whatever that might be, and also what strategies to pursue. If you spend more than 5 minutes on the internet, you'll see top tips everywhere, how to grow, how to engage, but truth is in your strategy, which should be guided by your metrics and your insights. And metrics also allow you to track your progress towards a desired outcome. You can measure your success and, of course, determine the effectiveness of your efforts. When I don't work as a social media manager anymore, I laid down my clients last August to focus on PLM and be a director and run a business, which was really scary. But when I did, I was often using my metrics to communicate to clients what was working. When I worked in agencies in the past as well, I've worked in employer branding and influencer marketing. It wasn't my thoughts that I could report back to my clients. It was the numbers, it was our engagement rate, our growth rate, the sentiment in our comment sections. So what your metrics and your data do is gives you a big bunch to do a lot with, which, of course, we want to make informed decisions so that we can see greater results online. Before we go any further, I want to pause and emphasize this. Your metrics are not just the thing that you check at the end of the month. I have absolutely been guilty of running through the month, things get busy, and then I wonder how many followers I've got in February, or I wonder what our reach has been this month. Whilst they can be useful for your end of month reporting, they don't stay there. Your metrics are everything that you do. Oh, we have I'm not sure what that noise was, but I'm just going to carry on. So how do you actually get started using your metrics? Great question. For me, it is all about our goals. I'm just checking the chat as well. Jessica said, so does my boyfriend. Twins. I love it. Awesome. But it's all about your goals. I would love to know in the chat how often you guys set goals for your socials, if goal setting is totally new to you. I think for a really long time when I started in social media, so I started PLM, I freelanced, I worked in agencies, now I'm the director of my mini team of one. I always felt like goals was such like a buzzwordy thing, or maybe I just didn't really understand how to set effective goals. I actually remember in the first agency I worked for, I was an influencer marketing manager. And on my first day, I was getting ready to do my job. They were like, oh, okay, so you can just do the socials as well. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that was part of my job. And often socials is bundled in with other admin tasks, as it should not be. And we were kind of chatting through goal setting. I think we had 200 or 300 followers. And let me tell you, my boss was hardcore, audaciously, for all the wrong reasons, set on 10K followers. And I feel like 10K, that number is such a, oh, why is everyone set on it? I remember I got clients before, it's all about the 10K. Get the 10K followers. It won't solve all your problems, let me tell you that. Some really interesting insights in our chat here on how often you set your goals. Brooke has said quarterly, Julie has shared monthly. We've got monthly goal setting. I set goals per campaign, also monthly. Jen has said that goal setting is hard to figure out, which I totally agree with. Love these insights. So your goals allow you to do many things. And for me, it's a kind of two-step process. And I'm going to walk you through this slide. And then I wanted to show you kind of tangibly what that looks like for me as a social marketer in my process. So step number one when it comes to your goals is identifying what they are. What is it that you want to achieve? When I talk about strategy building in my carousels on Instagram, I often describe it as a road trip. and how when you set your goal, it's kind of like typing in a postcode or zip code or whatever it's called where you're from into your Google Maps, your Apple Maps, your Waze map, so that you can then drive there, because driving is easier when you know where you're going. It might be brand awareness, it might be growth and engagement, it might be website traffic, it might be lead generation, it might be sales, the list goes on and on and on. Once you have identified your social media objectives, you can then align your metrics with your goals. Different goals require different metrics for measurement. And now I do have a slide on that shortly too. Number one, we set the goal. Number two, we then kind of measure our success getting there. If we want more brand awareness, then things like likes and comments aren't necessarily top of the metric measuring list. We might be looking at our shares, our saves, the sentiment in our comments section. We might be having a look at how many people have looked at our profile, if the platforms you're on allow for those insights. But what does this look like for me? I wanted to help you visualize like some practical ways, I suppose, that the very heavy jargony slides can work and look like for you. There are two things I do to kind of get started here. Oh, I've lost the chat. Never mind, I'll come back to it shortly. Number one is I really love setting a monthly goal for my content on social media. You're going to have many monthly goals. Obviously, we always want to be growing and engaging. That's going to be one. You'll probably always want to be increasing your reach so that more people know who you are. But in line with your business goals, what's happening with your wider community, your wider teams, for me, I always go back to what is the one thing that I want to achieve or point back to this month. Not only is this useful so that when I look at my metrics, I can say, cool, I'm on track because I want to do this and my metrics are showing me these results. But two, on a content planning perspective as well, which we're not here to talk about, but I wanted to slip in as a tiny note. Having a monthly goal takes my brainstorm, my big Apple Notes list of content ideas from a really long, overwhelming list of things that I could post about, and allow me to pinpoint the things that are going to get me what I want that month. To give you a tangible example, I am launching our PLM membership in April, which is so scary and exciting. So my March and April goal is to tee up for that launch. Prior to that, in January and February, my two goals across platforms, primarily Instagram and LinkedIn, have just been reach. I don't care about selling anything. I just want to get in front of the most right people so that now I have a bigger pool ready to funnel, hopefully to join an exciting membership. If we can pull it off. Again, team of one, we're just trying our best out here. I know many of you relate. By knowing what's coming up, I can allocate goals to each month accordingly. I can use that to guide my content decisions. And most importantly, I can measure my success through my metrics. Secondly, on that too, I really, really enjoy giving each piece of content a goal as well, because not every piece of content needs to do everything. Not every piece of content is going to get the most comments, saves, shares, likes, what are the other ones, link clicks, or whatever else it could be. Some might do multiple. One might be a really good piece for shareability and savability, and that's awesome. But I really love being able to benchmark success and kind of give my content more of a well-rounded approach by knowing that Monday's post is a good one for reach. That's going to get me in front of the most right people. Tuesdays were a bit more salesy, and the goal here is to get link in bio clicks. Cool. What do I need to do to get less reach, perhaps, but encourage more link clicks? And looking at everything I do individually so that the full picture is more of a complicated, fun, messy jigsaw that all works together rather than trying to use it as a cog to do everything for me. So number one, setting a bit of a monthly goal in line with what your year or your quarter looks like. And then number two, treating each piece of content as an individual opportunity to shine and a goal. Awesome. Going back to my notes for 1 second. Knowing what your metrics mean. Let me know in the chat. Do you know what your metrics mean? I'm really curious to know where you guys gauge on this as well, because I struggled with this one for a really long time. And I am quite die hard, I would say, in my belief that, and don't hurt me for this, that vanity metrics do not exist. Now, I feel like this is a safe space, so I can say that, but I've actually posted that on LinkedIn before and got absolutely rinsed. So I don't know if that's a popular opinion or an unpopular opinion, but I do not think that vanity metrics exist, because I think that every metric, when it is clear, has a purpose. I've got a few examples on the slides here. You're very welcome to grab a picture and note this down. Obviously, you'll get the replay as well if you did want to share this. But I wanted to kind of demonstrate the goal and the metric that I would apply when I am analyzing, inferring, or trying to find some objective truths in those metrics. Goal number one could be advocacy. It could be creating a loyal and engaged pool of audience members who love what you do, tell their friends about what you do, and champion you and who you are. For me, advocacy, I guess, is a community builder. Community is my job. It's always top of my goals list. To measure my advocacy, I would look at things like shares and comments. Brand awareness is very often a big one. Whenever I start work with a new client or sit down, cool, why are we on Instagram? Brand awareness. Why are we on TikTok? Virality, brand awareness. We want everyone to know who we are. Bigger pool, I guess, bigger opportunities in some senses. Here, I would still look at our shares and saves on that individual level. But for a more broader sense, we might look at our reach. How many people are we reaching with each post, each month? And I'd like to look at my profile visits as well to test which pieces of content grabbed people's curiosity enough to swipe across on TikTok or click on Instagram and LinkedIn and check us out in a deeper level. Spend more time with us too. Growth might be a goal. I do not think that growth and follower count is a dirty word. Again, I do not think vanity metrics exist. I think it is absolutely fine to want more followers as long as you understand why. In terms of the metrics, we'd of course look at our follower count. Is that going up or down? And then impressions as well. How many people are seeing the content? What are they doing once they have seen it as well? And then leads and sales, of course, very important if you're running a business or you represent a business online as well. Social media is a great money-making tool, I suppose. Here, we would probably have a look at click and conversion rates.
Sophie, I wanted to take a second here. We had a question. I thought it would be a good time to address it. Somebody was asking, what are vanity metrics? So if you can kind of just quickly define them a bit.
Of course, that's a really good question. I don't think I've ever been asked how to define a vanity metric, so I'd love your thoughts as well, Noah, if you don't mind. But to me, a vanity metric is people often talk about things like likes and follower count as a vanity metric because they are very hard to translate into something tangible, i.e., they don't matter too much. They don't impact a whole bunch business-wise. Whether you have 100 followers or you are striving and pining for 10, 100 million, 1,000 followers, it's not the goal that's going to see the most tangible results. That would be my best definition, I would say. I don't know if you have anything to add, Noah. I was curious to know what people think.
I think you summed that up beautifully. Yeah, I think it's sort of when you really look at the return of investment, stuff like that. The vanity metrics don't really offer you that.
Yeah.
You're looking more at tangible, as you mentioned, maybe sort of actionable metrics. But yeah, they're still there, and I love to hear. I was intrigued to hear your opinion, and I definitely see where you're coming from. Like they can still inform some things, and it's so much related to your goal. Maybe your goal is not necessarily that much, a return of your investment at the very beginning. It's more of a growing, so you can have that reach, have that followers, and later on build on the rest. So yeah.
Absolutely. No, I love that. Again, it all ties back to your goals, doesn't it? And it's such an individual thing. I think that's often why teaching online, I've kind of sat to do posts before about like how to manage your metrics, but it's such a personal thing. All of your goals and your metrics look different. But to me, as I've said, they all matter, the vain ones and all. But your numbers aren't the only way to measure your success and measure your goals. I wanted to share kind of 3 measurable factors that you should be aware of too. Number 1 is sentiment. And I get flashbacks when I talk about sentiment and sentiment analysis. I wrote my dissertation during one of our many UK lockdowns. And I remember for that, I had to learn what a sentiment analysis was. And also, I remember using Excel to perform one. And it was not an enjoyable experience, but sentiment is very important. Sentiment is a general consensus of how people feel about a thing, or in this case, about your brand, about a post. If you share a post and you get 10 comments and everyone says, Sophie, you have made social media simple and I've really loved this post, you have a positive sentiment. And what you can draw from that is, cool, all of these 10 people have said that this has made social media simple. So again, we're not using numbers, but we're more inferring from what feeling and sentiment. Or you might have a negative sentiment. Hopefully not, but everyone in your comment section might be very unhappy. And you can take the common themes, pieces of feedback from that. So we're looking for words and collections of data in that sense, rather than just your numbers. On that too, sentiment could also come from DMs. It could be common questions you're getting about your product or your services. So the sentiment might be that not many people understand what you do and what you sell, and then that can guide your decision making for future content instead. Robin has asked, is sentiment, this is very technical, is sentiment qualitative rather than quantitative? Definitely both. If you can analyze them well, you can turn it into something quantitative. 10 out of 15 people shared a positive sentiment on my reel. But to me, when I look at sentiment, it's more of a general qualitative overview of how people feel and what they are saying. Yes. Cool. Social listening and brand advocacy. So when I type in, I mean, I don't think there'd be anything on there, but if I typed in Pretty Little Marketer on X, Twitter, or TikTok, there might be people talking, I hope not, but there might be people talking about me and my brand. Social listening is a great way to kind of scout the internet for what people are saying. And again, you can add a sentiment to that as well. There are tools that do that for you. You might have forums. I have a Facebook group. You might have a closed community, but you're looking at what people are saying and you are socially listening to them through the internet. And the final kind of non-metricy one, I suppose, would be customer service. So again, looking in your DMs, what are the common themes, the problems, what are people complaining about, what are they returning, what are they asking? Aside from just your numbers, there are other spaces on your social media accounts that you can take data, qualitative or quantitative, and infer that and use that to make your decisions. I was on a call last week or the week before, I think the days merged into one, and we were having a really interesting conversation actually about how the best way to learn about your audience is just to spend time with them, to read your comments, to read your DMs, to head into forums, to type in your brand name on Reddit or TikTok. And rather than be this looming voice that looks over your followers, your advocates, the people in front of you, actually getting in with them, asking questions on your stories, seeing how they think and feel. I consulted over Christmas with an incredible brand called Toco Swim, who are a swimwear brand, and they're run by two sisters. They are absolute sweethearts and angels. And one thing I really admired actually about their social strategy prior to refining it together was how, I guess, sentiment-led it was, and how whenever they thought about launching a new color, a new shape, any business decision, they would share it on their stories and add like a question box or a poll. Because again, rather than being the thing that makes the looming decisions over the audience, getting in there with them is the best way to learn about what they think, they feel, and what they want for you. Now, absolutely not possible with every brand. I've worked with some big brands before who, if I did that on their stories, I definitely would have got quickly fired. But definitely challenge you on this less metric-driven approach to have a think about how you can spend more time with your audience to learn from them and grow with them rather than talk at them. It's what it's all about to me. Now, it doesn't stop there. You've got your goals, we've got, we understand what some of our metrics could mean. But what can we do with these numbers? I talked about how they can guide your decision making, but Sophie, what on earth does that mean without being really fluffy and really boring? How can we use these numbers? I think there are three core ways, starting with learning more about your audience. So you can look at numbers on Instagram is really great for this. LinkedIn has, it kind of allocates your audience percentages by their job role or where they live. But your metrics allow you to understand your demographics, which are your audience on paper. If every follower is just a stat, which we know they are much more than, but if we do just reduce them to a number, your demographics can help you tailor your content and your messaging to specific groups. Your engagement, you can learn much more about your audience by analyzing your engagement. You can see which posts get the most likes, the most comments, the most shares, and the most clicks. Of course, now you would have allocated a goal and you'd understand what each of those metrics mean, so that when you've got a big launch coming up and you want more brand awareness, well, last month, X piece of content got the most shares and the most reach. So let's try and replicate that again. It shows you what type of content resonates with your audience and also potentially what could fall flat. Again, it's not a flop, it's an insight we can learn from everything. And then finally, your sentiment. You can, of course, track whether people are using positive, negative, or neutral language when talking about your brand. I saw Kylie Jenner post about, or if any of you know the name, pop it in the chat. You might not, because it's been teased, but she is launching like a vodka brand, I think, and it's in a can. Not sure, some of you might know what I mean, but she shared a teaser on her Instagram. And now whenever the card sprinter, that's it, icon, thank you. She's launching I think it's an alcohol brand essentially. And now whenever I see things like this, I'm always so curious to know what other people think. I spend all my time in the comments on TikTok, 'cause obviously it's just the best place to be. And I was reading through her comments and they were, this doesn't make sense. Why are you launching this? There were others complaining it was a bit of a cash grab. Others you have 100 other brands. Why do you need another one? Tons of questions. So if I was in Kylie's team, I'm very much not, but if I was, the sentiment there would be incredible. maybe they probably wouldn't be happy with it, but it would be great insight as to how people are feeling about, one, Kylie and her brand, and then two, the brand Sprinter in general ahead of the launch, so that you can make U-turns, you can take twists and kind of figure out, this is what people think, positive or negative, what do we need to do? If ever you need something to do, I very much dive into the comment sections of some of these brands, guys. People are ruthless on social media sometimes. But the first thing you can do with these metrics is learn more about your audience. The second thing you can do, and a mission that we are all on always, is improving our content. You can spot emerging trends, first and foremost, in social media and adapt your content accordingly. I know that there's a lot of chatter at the moment about landscape TikToks. And now, rather than kind of taking that as the new truth, because everyone on TikTok is saying it needs to be over a minute, it needs to be landscape. Well, what you can do is, one, you can identify that on social media, but two, you can then look at your approach and say, well, where can that fit for me? Should I try that out? If I try it and it works, how can I replicate it? If I try it and it doesn't work, why didn't it work for me and why did it work for them? So by identifying emerging trends, you can then decide whether it's something worth trying or not, so that you can either move forward with an insight or you can take a sidestep with an insight because it didn't allow you to necessarily move forward towards your goals. You can monitor your competitor activity. This is something I did so much when I started PLM. I'm also on a bit of a mission to be better at TikTok. Now, please don't hold me to that, because it was actually my 2022 goal to post on TikTok every day. I think I posted on TikTok about 5 times in 2022 and probably about 5 times since. But monitoring my competitor activity, or less so competitors for me, I suppose, but people in my space, I can look at what they're doing, what's working for them and what isn't. Obviously here I can only look at their public metrics. So this will be things like their view count on TikTok, likes, saves, shares, and comments. But again, every metric has a purpose here. Something I've really been doing actually on my quest to start TikTok this year is, one, have a look at what's been working for other people, but two, benchmark that with this question of who don't I want to be on TikTok, as well as who do I want to be, which has been a really interesting kind of line of thought for me so far. Your metrics also allow you to stay informed about platform updates. If suddenly Instagram has launched Reels, as they did a few years ago, and all of your static content is flopping and reach has seemingly never returned, first of all, you're definitely not alone. But secondly, again, it can help you identify it. This platform is doing this. Can I follow it? Is this working for me? What do I need to adapt and change? And finally, it can help you stay ahead of the curve. So you can identify your top performing content, see what's working best, and replicate certain elements in the future. You can experiment. How many of us just do the same thing because we know it works, and we are terrified of trying something new because it might not? Me, because I still haven't joined TikTok, and it's been 2 years of saying that I will. But seeing how your audience respond to new and different things, again, help you identify, oh, this is a new route, I'm going to follow it. Let's go this way. And finally, on a practical note, you can also then schedule your posts for optimal reach. For me, I know that if I don't post on Instagram at 8 a.m., as I have done for 4 years, I'm almost definitely positive it will perform not as well in terms of my kind of likes and comments and reach. I can't promise 8 a.m. will work for you, but what your metrics and insights can do is do that for you. So I don't have to, because that is the job of you and you analyzing your metrics. Now, where does this fit in your workflow? You can use your metrics at every point in your content workflow to make decisions. And not just can you, should you too. You absolutely should. And now here is what it looks like for me. These aren't just numbers. This is how I tangibly use them at every step. So number one is, of course, my planning and my creation. Number one, this is where I'm likely going to set my goals for the month and for each post. But looking back, I can understand, okay, in February, my trend prediction post did really well, and my Hailey Bieber breakdown did really well. It did better on LinkedIn than it did Instagram. A certain meme or format got the most amount of shares on LinkedIn, and that correlated to my highest growth day, whatever that might be. I can take those numbers and then I might say, cool, I'm going to do one meme format a month in March because that worked really well in February. I'm going to share 2 posts a week with a link to my email list because, again, that worked really well for diverting traffic in February. Now, can I guarantee that March is going to replicate those results? No, but that's why it's a consistent test and learn. So planning and creation, that is how and where I tend to use my metrics. Scheduling and posting, again, looking at your historical data. So for me, I know 8 a.m. is my dreamy spot on Instagram, and I know that either 8 or 12 work really well for me. Emphasis on for me, can't guarantee that will work for you on LinkedIn. I can have a look at what works on each day, different times of day, and tailor my schedule accordingly. Following that, I've planned for March. I haven't, but in an ideal world, let's say that I have. I have scheduled my content for March, and now it's posting because I've scheduled it on Planable and it's all pushing my content out for me. What I'm going to do throughout the time, again, I'm going to spend time with my audience. I'm going to be on these platforms as I'm posting. We're going to prioritize our community management because I think that's going to be really hot for 2024. It was in my predictions post. But here we can track our key metrics. We can keep an eye and we can gauge the performance of our content. And then finally, the time of the month that you're probably going to dive in the deepest is going to be, or looks like for me, the end of the month. At the end of every month for my consulting clients, but also I try and do this for myself now as well. If you run like a brand account or your own account for yourself, it's so easy to just let it slip to the bottom of the pile. But really trying to prioritize doing this for myself as well, in doing some reporting and analysis. So here I will look for trends, identify areas for improvement. I will go through my platforms one by one, and I will see what post performed best, what didn't perform like I thought it would, what surprised me, what got the most comments, on what day did I see the most growth or link clicks, what did I post or do that day. So we're kind of hunting for our answers. We're seeing what has worked or what hasn't worked. I do this as a bit of like a brainstorm exercise. So I'll grab a pen and paper and I'll do it that way so I can kind of visualize it. For some clients, and I know some freelancers and marketers do this, you'll put like a monthly report together. So you've got a slideshow, but having it somewhere stored is really, really handy. And if you don't do that already, I very much recommend. But this is what my process looks like from the start to the finish of the month. And now, a top tip, if you do want to make it easy, you can, of course, use Planable. I actually got a sneak peek of the insights and data on Planable, I think in October or November. I was sent some pictures of what it was going to look like. I was able to access the tool in December time as well. And I often find that platforms, or when I look in like the native settings of my apps, it's incredibly overwhelming to kind of find, oh God, where's the follow count? Where's the impressions? And as always, love Planable and the team, and truly to my core, not just saying that because Noah is sat here listening to me. I've been a user for 3 years and counting now. But genuinely, if you are looking for a tool that is going to lay out your metrics, your data and insights for the platforms you're on, simply and clearly, I very, very much recommend. Tried tried many and it's a favorite. So all of the things that we've spoken about today, using a tool where you can clearly visualize, oh, there's a big spike there, oh, there's a big dip there. It's going to make your workflow much, much easier. Now, I hope that was useful and it provided some learnings, teachings, or prompted you to think about things in a new way. Or just hopefully, I feel like my goal today was just to make you feel a little bit more excited about metrics and insights, because I know they're boring. I know they're not cool, but you and we're going to make them cool together. Okay, it's our goal. We're going to make metrics cool again. So I hope it's kind of inspired you there to use them and quit the guesswork, I suppose. So with that, question time, very happy to hand back over to you, Noah, or if any of you guys have any questions in the box or the chat, happy to see how we can help the best we can.
Thank you so much, Sophie, for the presentation. I personally believe analytics and metrics are cool. Just after hearing you talk about it, I swear it just makes me want to go and look at our data and see what you can build with it. I think you can be creative with that analytics. I was looking through the messages, as people were chatting during the presentation. So I have a couple of questions lined up when we can see what else comes with the time that we have left. One question was, I think you kind of touched upon this, but I thought it was interesting. When you're setting goals and you mentioned, you can set different goals based on what you want to focus on. Is there a way you prioritize that? And I would expect that's very personal, but just from your experience, how you've managed that? How do you prioritize different goals?
Yeah, goal setting is really difficult, isn't it? Because I want to grow, I want to engage, I want link clicks, I want people to join my mailing list, and I want everything. But ultimately, I can't achieve everything. So number one, making sure that in your content plan, you do have something that does each thing. It's one of the reasons why I allocate a goal to each post. For example, on a Friday on LinkedIn, I do a roundup of 6 pieces of marketing news. And the goal there is reach and to get people on my mailing list. That's why I always add the link in the caption. Other times I might share a meme, and the goal there is purely relationship, to show that you are seen and that this is a relatable space, but to, of course, reach. Other posts might be purely for education. So it might be an educational carousel to nurture and maybe promote my coaching or consulting and kind of push someone to purchase. But one, taking comfort in, I've got 30 days this month to share pieces of content that do those things. So number one, there's that. And then number two, the way I prioritize for the whole month is I kind of zoom out of just social and I'll look at my wider business goals. So again, I've got a membership launch coming up, or it could be a product launch. So 4 months ahead, I want reach. 3 months ahead, I want to start teasing it. We're nurturing, we're building relationships. I might have more memes, more shareable pieces. 1 month before, I'm focusing on what the sentiment is that I want people to feel about that. So you're going to notice me talking about community and loneliness as a marketer a lot more, because those are my selling points. And then obviously when it comes to launch, I'm going to be sharing content around that much more. So having a look, again, zooming out, whether it's quarterly or yearly, it depends on how you work. I'm a team of one, so decisions are easier. If you work in a bigger team, obviously that's going to look a little bit more different. But yeah, one, taking comfort knowing you don't need to do everything. Your content can do kind of those bits for you, almost like a leg day, an arm day, and a chest day at the gym. You don't go and do it all. I mean, I aren't do it all, but you don't go and do it all. You'd allocate one to a day of the week. And then, yeah, zooming out a little bit. So I hope that answers your question.
It's clear to me. I hope it's clear for our audience. I wanted to quickly mention, we're going to have a following series and we're going to touch upon subjects like benchmarking, top posts and content, and reporting. I mentioned this because there's some questions that want to dive deeper into that. And I think we're going to have opportunity to really go on that topic. But one area you touched upon, and I see some questions on this, is about sentiment. So I think this was a pretty not necessarily new, but yeah, interesting idea for our audience today. So we have 2 questions I'm kind of gonna do a quick summary of them. So it's about not having a lot of engagement, and like if you don't have where to get that sentiment from in an obvious way, like comments on DMs, is there another way you can kind of gauge that, or should you build to maybe to get that engagement? And then yeah, also the fact that in comments there's a lot of sort of spam like comments where they're just trying to get rich themselves, so it's not necessarily relevant
Yeah.
to your brand and to your goals, and how do you navigate that, if you can
Mhm.
talk a bit
And
about
a
it?
really good question. If you don't have comments to draw sentiment from, then it's going to be difficult to draw sentiments from them. Equally, very much relate on the spam front. I feel like on my business LinkedIn, on the PLM LinkedIn, get a lot of comments from other company accounts who you're telling me my post is good. And that is a positive sentiment. But I suspect you're telling me that for extra reach. So how do I test your motivations here? And I guess my advice here is less practical and potentially a bit more fluffy, but it would to be to take what you can. So very much using your human judgment here rather than kind of relying on those metrics and numbers and our analytics and the tools that we're using to look at those comments one by one if you are able to. Maybe it's something you could allocate, I don't know, half an hour every other Friday. We're going to look through the comments and DMs for the last 2 weeks and kind of together as a team, or me as a human who understands people, kind of take the inference that you can there. So yeah, again, not the most practical advice that you can take away and do, but I would say to take what you can. If it's clear someone's in your comment section because they just want the extra reach, then we can maybe discard that as an insight. Or we could even have a think about, like, how did this person land upon us? Do they see us as an authority? Again, trying to dive deeper, and these are going to be more subjective insights. They're not your objective truths, but they can absolutely still be used. In terms of having no comments to draw insights from, again, using what you can. So whether you're on Instagram stories and you get a few responses on there, whether you have an email marketing team who can kind of give you insights there, maybe you could even work with your customer service team to understand, like, what are the common questions you get, what are the common frustrations, and then how can we incorporate that into our content plan. So obviously here I've talked about social media because it's what we're talking about and what we do. But depending on how you work within your business, there might be other areas that you can take wordy or qualitative data from. But yeah, I guess my best and semi-fluffy advice is just to take what you can, and yeah, use your instinct. It doesn't, I know we've talked about metrics today, but you are very capable humans who are great at what you do and can infer from other humans too. So yeah, don't forget that, I suppose.
Amazing. I wanted to kind of just add a bit on that and tied with something you mentioned earlier. I think, we someone asked, is it qualitative or quantitative data when it comes to sentiment? And I think, definitely at the start, it's more quality, like find those that are relevant to you. And then obviously if you can grow that and turn it into quantity and start really branching it out. And also, there's a question, kind of a follow-up, if you don't get many comments or shirts, like what can you do? And I think something you just mentioned is like maybe look in other areas, like is there anywhere else maybe you're getting engagement and how you could replicate that? And I think it's a lot of trial, maybe. You can definitely speak more to this, but
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
yeah. Amazing. I don't see any other questions right now, and we're just on time. So, um, thank you everybody so much for participating and the engagement. It was really, really lovely to see everybody here. We already got some feedback on the spot of how useful it's been and how people got some confirmation that they were on the right path, which again, I think is great. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm reading that right, but I'm sure somebody's saying metrics are cool again. I'm sure I read it somewhere. So let's see if we really see that. It's gonna be in the news tomorrow. I'm sure. But yeah, thanks for everybody. We'll be sharing the recording. Hope you can join us next week as well. Next week is gonna be all about benchmarks. So yeah, kind of giving you an insight of how to compare, when it's relevant, being very mindful of, what's relevant to your industry, your brand, and so on. But more on that next week. Sophie, you've been amazing as always. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, I feel like I've gushed about you guys already, but I just think you're truly the best. And I've said it time and time before, but the way that you and the Planable team genuinely care about the people that use your platform, I think is, I respect it a lot. I don't see it a lot. And no, a true honor to be part of the series. And I know that I'm excited for the rest of it. So yeah, if no one else tunes in, which I'm sure they will, I'll be there.
Amazing. Well, we hope to, see you soon then. Uh, Thanks, everybody. We'll let you get on with your day, morning, evening, and we'll hope to see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, guys.